MMA Fighting presents Timeline, Demetrious Johnson vs. Henry Cejudo 2. February 5th, 2011. UFC 126, Silva vs. Belfort, Las Vegas, Nevada. Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson makes his UFC debut as a bantamweight against legendary Japanese fighter Kid Yamamoto.
You finally got your wish, Demetrious. Everyone was asking for it. You're going to be on Facebook, a broadcast to the world. How exciting is that for you?
It's very exciting. I always want to show the world, the best fighters in the world. And I think me and Kid Yamamoto are one of the best bantamweights out there. And it's a great honor to be able to be shown on Facebook. And all the thanks goes to, all the Twitter fans out there and to Dana White, too.
You're a prime candidate to go down to 125 if that division ever comes about. Do you feel as though you're always at a slight disadvantage when you're fighting these bantamweights?
Sometimes, and I just think, when I fought Demetrious, I did a lot of mistakes. I was giving him my hips, so that's why when he tossed me around, that happened. But once I made a little adjustment to not give him my hips, I was able to hang in there with him. So when 125 comes out, it's something I'm going to have to look at because I'm getting bigger and I'm just eating whatever I want. So, but I don't see any disadvantage. I'm quicker than those guys and I have a lot of speed and I'm very technical. So
why do they call you Mighty Mouse?
They call me Mighty Mouse. You check out my ears. Look at my structure. I'm 5'3". I'm just a compact guy. I'm not very long. So, and at my gym, I'm the smallest guy there. So, I'm always sparring bigger guys. 205ers. Rich Franklin's been there, Sakurai, Wiki, and I'm the smallest guy. And I just get in there. And my coach is like, yeah, that's gonna be your name, Mighty Mouse. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and just stuck ever since then.
Can you sing the Mighty Mouse theme song?
Here he comes to save the day. That's all I know.
Come on, you just got shy.
No, I don't know the rest of it.
My goodness, Mighty Mouse is on the way.
Yeah, my goodness, Mighty Mouse on the way.
Any of the other fights that I just mentioned, not including the three at the top that everyone's talking about that you're really looking forward to?
I'm excited, like a lot of people, to see Kid Yamamoto in the UFC. Watching him in Japan for all this time, always wondered if he'd ever get here. He is, and he's fighting a guy that's like a lot of people really like watching. Demetrious Johnson's a really fun fighter to watch in the cage. He's a ball of energy. Nickname like Mighty Mouse. The guy's like he's fun. I love fighters like that, guys who come in and bring energy. So. And it could be a star-making fight for Demetrious Johnson. If he wins, he takes out, a superstar, really, a superstar of the sport, even though he's not as well known in the U.S. So to me, that's a really fun fight, and I'm glad I'm going to be here to watch it.
Johnson wins by unanimous decision.
Demetrious, very dominant win by you tonight, and it just seemed as though you were able to impose your will on him the entire fight. Was that what you were expecting?
Yeah, I was expecting, to get a lot of takedowns because he steps in real hard, but I made a couple mistakes about, letting him curl underneath me and not, stuffing him underneath me because he was real good about balling up, so I couldn't even get to my submission repertoire, so really upset about that.
And your timing was impeccable because you were slipping under his right hook every time. You were making sure that he wasn't even going to touch you, taking him down right away. I'm sure that's something you worked on, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Me and Matt, we worked on it a lot. All the guys at the gym, we did, and the one thing we were trying to work on was him to draw out that hook, and that's why he looked so timid because he was waiting, and I was just too over my bases. My head was over my feet, so I couldn't go here and come back on my counter, and so I resorted to my wrestling because I was already here. Then when he shot, I just came underneath and got him. So.
You're so fast. You're even fast in this interview. I can't even catch up. But talk about this situation. We don't see Xbox sponsoring a lot really fighters.
Yeah, Xbox 360 really stepped up. Microsoft stepped up to sponsor mixed martial arts, and I guess I'm their first protege. And I really want to say big thanks to them, and big thanks to UFC and Dana White and everybody at the staff at UFC for putting my fight on Facebook. And thank you guys for interviewing me.
May 28th, 2011. UFC 130, Rampage vs. Hamill, Las Vegas, Nevada. Mighty Mouse's next matchup is booked against former WEC champion and bantamweight pioneer Miguel Torres.
Also, another interesting fight on the Spike TV prelims, a guy that you know a lot about, Miguel Torres facing Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson. Can Torres pull it off?
I thought Torres had a great line. He said, how do you stop Mighty Mouse? How do you stop a mouse? You set a trap. I don't know if he'll be able to set that trap. I think Johnson speed is one of the most difficult things to prepare for and one of the most difficult things to fight against because it's hard to replicate in practice. There's not that many guys who have that type of speed. And I think that's going to be a huge weapon for Johnson. Throwing the takedowns, I think this is a prime one for the upset, and so I'm picking Johnson.
Johnson wins by controversial unanimous decision.
Some are saying they thought Miguel won. Why do you think he won that fight?
I think I won that fight because, I was basically fighting on one leg. Miguel Torres did have a lot of submission attempts, but I fought through him. I remember one time we both had a heel hook position. I was pressing forward the whole time. I had way more takedowns. I think I had a better exchange of strikes, Everybody says he has a good stand-up, but, he just plays a tall man's game. I have good footwork. I landed like 5 leg kicks, and then when I landed a leg kick and he checked it, I thought I broke my leg, and I kept on pressing forward even though I was the injured animal,
October 1st, 2011. UFC on Versus 6, Cruz versus Johnson, Washington, D.C. After going 2-0 in the UFC as a bantamweight, Demetrious Johnson is set to challenge champion Dominick Cruz for the title. Cruz defeats Johnson by unanimous decision. This would be Mighty Mouse's last fight as a bantamweight. March 2nd, 2012. UFC on FX2, Alves versus Campman, Sydney, Australia. Johnson is booked against Ian McCall in the UFC's first flyweight bout as part of a tournament to jumpstart the division. The winner would be rewarded with a title shot for the inaugural UFC Flyweight Championship. In one of the most confusing decisions in UFC history, Bruce Buffer, the ring announcer, initially declares the fight a split decision in favor of Johnson, but the scorecards actually revealed that it was a majority decision for Johnson. But later that evening, the UFC president, Dana White, revealed that the fight was actually a draw, and since the fight was part of a tournament, a 4th round would have been required to decide the winner in the case of a draw after 3 rounds. However, in the rematch 3 months later at UFC on FX3, Johnson would win a unanimous decision over McCall. September 22nd, 2012. UFC 152, Jones vs. Belfort, Toronto, Ontario. DJ is set to face fellow WC veteran Joseph Benavidez for the inaugural UFC Flyweight Championship.
Ariel Helwani post-fight at UFC 152 alongside the first ever UFC flyweight champion Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson. How does that feel? How does that sound? To be the first ever flyweight champion.
It sounds good, man. A lot of hard work paid off, and I'm excited. It hasn't seeped in all the way yet, but I train hard, and I just always want to impress my coaches, man. That's what it's all about for me.
Is it heavy?
It is heavy.
Can I touch it?
Absolutely. Go ahead. Let me get on my tippy toes. You got it?
Yes, I think that's enough.
Okay.
How much trouble were you in the 4th round?
When he rocked me, I was like, danger, 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 like Star Fox, and I was like, woo! And then when he stepped on the guillotine, I turned my neck to relieve the pressure, and I got my arms underneath him like we trained in the gym, and I got out. So I think he rocked me. I can't remember. I got to watch the tape, so it was a good shot.
Well, enjoy it. Congratulations, and we look forward to your first title defense.
I mean, I was reading Twitter tonight, these people were ripping on the flyweight. Let me tell you what, if you didn't like that flyweight fight, please, I'm begging you, don't ever buy another UFC pay-per-view again. Don't ever buy another one. I don't want your money. You're a moron. You don't like fighting, and you don't appreciate great talent or heart if you didn't like that flyweight fight. That kid fought his ass off tonight. Look at his face, going after a guy who was incredibly talented and picking him apart and moving and everything else. The kid never gave up. He went 5 strong rounds. And when I get on Twitter and I see that stuff, I get crazy, man. It's just like, please, 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 those of you that said that, I don't want your money.
January 26, 2013. UFC on Fox 6, Johnson vs. Dodson, Chicago, Illinois. Demetrious Johnson's first title defense is set as the main event versus reality show winner John Dodson.
Here it is. Your first title defense. Different than your first title fight. Now you're the champion. The bullseye is on your back. Is there a difference?
No difference. I'm approaching it just like any other fight. I train extremely hard for this fight, and I'm ready to go out there and just make history again. Be the first title defense in the flyweight division.
I'll ask you the same question that I asked John. The commercials for this fight. I've been all over the place. I think you know where I'm going with this, right? No mention of the flyweight. It's just a world title fight, but not flyweight world title fight, whatever. Does that bother you? Is flyweight a bad word?
No, not at all. I mean, that's my division, and at the end of the day, nothing changes for me. I'm still going to fight that night. I think the UFC did a fantastic job advertising it, during the football games on Sunday. So, I mean, it's going to be nationally broadcast, and I think they did a good job. It picked that time slot.
Do you think in this sport filled with alpha male fans and fighters, people are like, oh, the 125ers, like they almost look down on them, and that's why they have been kind of slow to embrace them?
I don't think so. I think it's one of those situations where, people felt this way about the 155-pound division once too, and they said that 55-pounders could never headline a card, and it's ridiculous. It's stupid talk. It's, the sport is evolving and growing, and these guys deserve to be here and deserve to be headlining. Demetrious Johnson's one of the greatest fighters in the world. He's a world champion. He's the fastest guy. Well, we'll find out on Saturday if he's faster than Dodson, but they're two of the fastest guys in the sport. It's exciting.
Mighty Mouse defeats Dodson by unanimous decision.
Demetrious Johnson is so good. And he's got this style where he's so fast, and he'll take you down if he wants to and keep it on his feet if he wants to. He can go wherever he wants to go. Tonight he faced an opponent that was well-rounded, and he got caught with some big shots. He overcame adversity. I mean, he got hit. He got dropped 2 or 3 times in that second or third round. And he proved tonight, and they both proved tonight that nobody should be talking any shit about the flyweights anymore.
The first couple rounds didn't go the way I wanted to. I wish I could avoid getting dropped twice. But John Dodson's tough. He's a great opponent. I'm glad that I had a tough guy like that to fight. And what was the second question?
How close did he have you to being in serious trouble?
It's going to happen. You're going to get knocked down. It's a fight, and when you're going against a guy who has punching power, it's going to happen. So I've been rocked before in my past fights. With Cruz and stuff, and I'm in great shape. I recovered good, and I just kept to the game plan and just kept on fighting. It's a fight.
June 27th, 2013, UFC on Fox 8, Johnson vs. Moraga, Seattle, Washington. Johnson is once again booked as the main event for a UFC on Fox, this time against John Moraga.
It seems as of late, he and his team have been kind of moving away from the boring comment, but he did say in the Road to the Octagon special that he can go to the fridge and you'll be doing the same thing. Very predictable. What's your response?
It's same thing. I've gone to the fridge when he's fighting. The same thing's going on. Same thing with Floyd Mayweather. He's the greatest of all time in boxing. I go to the fridge, get a beer, go outside, barbecue, come back, still doing the exact same thing. So I think for the fighters out there who say that stuff is that they're not understanding the craft that I present. When I fought Joseph, Ian, John Dodson, even Dominic Cruz, they all respected what I do well, and that's, Dominic Cruz understands range, distance. Those fighters understand that, and he portrays like, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna stand in front of you, I'm gonna bang. You're gonna be fighting air because I ain't gonna be there.
Johnson dominates Moraga throughout the match and eventually submits him via armbar midway through the 5th and final round.
Listen, if Demetrious came and said that he wants to, wanted to fight one of the, the champion at 135, I don't know. I'd have to talk to our matchmakers and see what they think, what they want to do. I don't hate the idea.
And for Demetrious, would that be a 135, or do you want that to be a catchweight type of thing?
As right now, I'm just throwing it out there. Like, you hear GSP and those guys, and I think it's awesome. And I just think there's fights to be had at, super fights to be had at the lightweight division. And Dana White always says, GSP, Anderson Silva, and John Jones, it's gonna be great fights, but they're gonna make a lot of money. So I'm just like, I'm just throwing it out there for the lightweight guys and see what happens. Just throwing it out there now.
December 14th, 2013, UFC on Fox 9, Johnson vs. Benavidez 2, Sacramento, California. Johnson is matched up against Joseph Benavidez in a rematch of their title fight at UFC 152.
I gotta say, I'm very impressed right now. Do you have any idea? The beard is a championship beard. Only a champion can grow a beard like that. Are you gonna keep it for the fight?
Yes, I'm gonna keep. I gotta edge it up like you though. My next,
Don't. No, this is rugged.
I see yours. Yours looks all good. It's all nice and lined up. So I gotta get mine lined up, but it's staying. Well, for me, it's like people was like, oh man, you never knocked anybody out, and it's like, okay, if I want to generate enough power to knock somebody out, let's look at my cons. 1, I'm off balance. 2, the punch is gonna come from way left field. It's gonna come from my hip. There's a lot of cons in that, to where I like to look at myself as a very technical fighter, where it's like, you know what, I'm going to be on balance, I'm going to stay on balance, I'm going to throw straight punches down the chamber. Yeah, maybe they might not, get that big bomb and land it, but at the same time, it's just like boxing. You see Floyd Mayweather, he goes out there, he's not throwing bombs, he's out there, he's like, hey, here we go, there's my cross, there's my uppercut, oh, my target stopped moving, I'm going to let go. So that's how I think. And you see a lot of times, like, these guys like, oh, I'm hitting pads, and that person looks good when he's hitting pads, but yeah, make that person hit pads while they're moving, and it's totally night and day.
In shocking fashion, Mighty Mouse knocks out Benavidez 2 minutes into the first round.
I mean, if people want to see me as the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, that's totally fine. My job is just to go back to the gym and keep on improving, and hopefully, keep on showcasing my skill set, the finishes and knockouts.
June 14th, 2014. UFC 174, Johnson vs. Bagatinov. Vancouver, British Columbia. The reigning champ is set to face Ali Bagatinov as the main event for a pay-per-view for the first time.
Do you kind of feel like you have to sell this card on your own? Like the promotion is on your shoulders because he can't speak English. He doesn't even have a translator here today. He can't even do any interviews.
Oh wow, that's very unfortunate. I don't like to think about that because his job is just a fight. There's nowhere, nobody says he has to sell this fight. His job is to fight and win. And the same as mine. I love doing interviews, try to pump up, the fight and try to sell the pay-per-view. But obviously people want to see trash talk, and that's not what I'm about.
Never tempted at all.
Oh, trust me, I get super tempted. I mean,
so why do you hold it back?
Just because it's not the right place to do it. They don't pay me a lot of money to trash talk. They pay me money to fight, and that's what I plan on doing a Saturday night.
But you can make the case that maybe you make more money if you trash talk or sell fights, right?
How do I know that?
Chael Sonnen.
Exactly. Look at Chael Sonnen. But at the same time, that's not how I was raised. I just go out there and fight, and that's what I'm going to do. Who knows? If Dana White took me aside and he goes, dude, if you trash talk,
he'd want you to do that to manufacture it.
But you would never know. If he came behind me and goes, dude, if you trash talk, I'm going to be sliding more checks in your mail, dog. All right? Then you'll see, you won't see a totally different Demetrious Johnson, but you'll see a little more Demetrious Johnson, a little more spicy one, I guess you can say.
Johnson dominates and wins by unanimous decision.
Yeah, each time I fight, my last fight, I show that I have knockout power, and each time I fight, I want to show that I'm well-rounded. Like, if you want to fight me in a clinch, I'll be more happy to fight you in a clinch. If you want to wrestle, we can wrestle. If you want to do jiu-jitsu, we can do that. So I can do it all. I'm not just a one-trick pony.
September 27, 2014. UFC 178, Johnson vs. Cariaso, Las Vegas, Nevada. For the second time, Johnson is booked as the main event for a UFC pay-per-view, this time against a relatively unknown challenger, Chris Cariaso.
Demetrious Johnson is a huge favorite. Last I checked, Chris Cariaso, 9-1, 10-1 underdog. I mean, huge odds, and it's even climbing. What kind of a shot? I mean, do you have anything that you can say that this guy can do out there on Saturday, and he can dethrone Demetrious Johnson?
Oh man, I mean, you never want to say never in this sport. It's silly to say somebody can't do something. The TJ Dillashaw's happened, the Matt Serra's happened. There's precedent for a giant landscape-changing upset. But, I mean, do you see a segment of the game that Chris Cariaso is better at than Demetrious Johnson? A segment that he can exploit. Usually there's some form of out, and I just don't see an out that he has. I mean, Demetrious Johnson's a better striker. He has better footwork. He's faster. He's more powerful. He has excellent wrestling, both offensive and defensive. I mean, even you go back to the old cliche of puncher's chance, Chris Cariaso isn't even a powerful striker. He's more a volume striker with his kickboxing. He has, I think, 3 knockouts in his entire career, and only one of those is over the last 5 years in the UFC and the WEC. There just doesn't seem to be an out, a way to predict that he could win this fight.
Johnson easily defeats the overmatched Cariaso by Kimura in the second round.
What do you make of Demetrious now? Because it just seems like there's nothing really interesting out there for him. There are no real tests, especially with Dodson being injured for quite some time, and he wants to take some time, so that buys him some time. But it just seems like I hate the criticism that he receives, because you need 2 to tango, and he keeps showing up, but he's showing up against guys who really aren't on his level. So what do you do with him, in your opinion?
He said he wants to take some time. I think he's earned that time. He's been
most active UFC champion by far.
He's been insanely consistent. The Dodson thing is, It's interesting. That's an incredibly interesting fight. I mean, I would like to see the rematch because that was his only real.
But he beat him.
Yeah, he beat him, but it was a
He
close
beat
fight.
McCall and he beat Benavidez, the top 3 guys, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's still guys out there. I mean, you still have guys like John Lineker, Horiguchi coming up. I mean, it's looking bleak. Like, it's not like there isn't very many people.
December 13th, 2014, UFC on Fox 13, Dos Santos vs. Miocic, Phoenix, Arizona. 2008 Olympian and wrestling gold medalist Henry Cejudo makes his UFC debut against Dustin Kimura. Cejudo wins by unanimous decision.
When you did your post-fight interview, you asked for another chance at 125. Considering how good you looked at 135, why do you want to be at flyweight?
I feel like I woke up the next day, and what I weigh is pretty much about 144, 142. I cut 8 pounds yesterday, and again, a lot of people would be scared, but that's what I weigh. It was an hour cut, and I felt good, and I feel like I should finish something that I try to start. And I feel like if Daniel Cormier could make weight, I could definitely make weight. I was in the Olympic team with him, so I know if he could go down to 205, I can go down to 125.
Is it a point of pride, or do you think you're actually a better fighter at 25?
I just feel like I could dominate the 125 pounds, and I feel like I could, I feel like I could feel good at both weights, but I feel at 25 could be extremely dominant. I feel strong at 35, and I can only imagine 25.
March 14th, 2015, UFC 185, Pettis vs. Dos Anjos, Dallas, Texas. Cejudo's second appearance in the UFC would be against former title challenger Chris Cariaso.
And what do you make of Chris? He's just fighting for the belt. I mean, he's a guy who's been in a main event. He lost to DJ, obviously, but I mean, this is a big vote of confidence. They're putting you main card pay-per-view against former number 1 contender.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think he's a tough fighter. I like him as a person. I think that makes it easier for me. Because I don't like this Twitter stuff. I don't even look at it that much. But I think he's a southpaw. He's an orthodox. He's a title contender. He had 3 consecutive wins before losing to Demetrious Johnson. He's a tough fighter, man. He's ranked number 10 in the world, and I'm making my second UFC, fighting for the second time here in the UFC. So I feel like my style matches up very well with not just him, but I think anybody in the UFC.
Cejudo wins by unanimous decision.
I come from Mexican descent. We're known to fight smart. Well, actually, not every Mexican, but to at least showcase some type of stand-up like I did in my last fight. I felt a little tight from my forearms and my chest. It was from the weight cut. I mean, it wasn't bad. I was a pound under Friday night, so whoever bet against me, you get this one. But I'll be back. I think I'm only gonna get better. I would love to find the Mexico City card. I'm fluent in Spanish. My parents are from Mexico City. Hablo español, and I think that's a perfect card for me. So I guess I'm in Mexico City now. So thank you.
Okay, let's quickly talk about Henry Cejudo. Great performance, and I think he just blew away Dana White at the press conference with the fluent Spanish. He's got the look, he's got the inspirational stories. I mean, he's right out of like an NBC Olympic, one of those like segments, those mushy segments they do. And he comes out to the NBC Olympic theme. I mean, this guy is great. Did you think that? Okay, I mean, it was a good performance. He's back at 125, but I feel like we sometimes want to rush these guys to these title shots so we get excited about him. Did you think that he proved that? I mean, 1 or 2 fights away from being in that discussion?
Yeah, going into it, I thought if he won, and he won impressively, he was going to be 1 fight away just because the division is so shallow. I still feel that way. I saw some people getting down on his performance. I thought it was really good. I mean, Chris Cariaso is a guy who his only losses at flyweight are to Formiga, DJ, and John Moraga. Like, if you're included in that company now, and Cejudo, that's not bad company to be with. I'd really like to see him get a top 5 guy to see whether, maybe we should slow it down. Like Horiguchi, I would have liked to see Horiguchi get another fight. I'd like to see Cejudo get a top 5 fight so we know whether, he's ready or not. But I was absolutely impressed. He's on a different level athletically than all the rest of these guys so far that he's been able to fight.
April 25th, 2015. UFC 186, Johnson vs. Horiguchi, Montreal, Quebec. Demetrious Johnson is booked as the pay-per-view main event against surging Japanese prospect Kyoji Horiguchi.
I feel like the gloves are off. I've listened to your interviews. I've studied them. You know, we've talked about this before, but I'm hearing F-bombs here. I'm saying don't watch my pay-per-view if you don't appreciate good athletes. I'm hearing you call out Ronda Rousey, Floyd Mayweather. I mean, there's a whole different thing going on here. Finally, have you had enough?
I don't want to say you had enough. I guess you can say I'm slowly starting to let my personality come out. And so far, I haven't got, the acts or, you're not supposed to be saying that from, the big honcho. So, this is just my personality, and yeah, that's it.
But you see the way people are responding to this in a positive way.
Yeah, you see some positive, but you also see the negative too. And honestly, I seen a lot more positive about people saying when I, were straight up. I was like, dude, if you don't want to watch me, that's your fucking bad. I was like, go watch soap opera or go watch WWE. But if you want to watch the purest of mixed martial arts and two great athletes mixing it up, you need to tune in.
Does it get tiring that almost every fight is like a referendum on how much you can sell, whether you're a pay-per-view job, whether you should be on Fox, FS1, like every time you have to discuss this kind of story?
I think more people look into that more than a fight because, the reason why is because they know the fight's going to happen, so that's done and said. But they wonder if it's actually going to do very well. That's where people are seeing if that's going to happen.
In the latest UFC stoppage in its history, Mighty Mouse wins by armbar 24 minutes and 59 seconds into the fight.
You know what's kind of sad? It's kind of sad that Demetrious Johnson has kind of got this thing hanging over his head that he's not this, he's not that. The guy, if you understand anything about mixed martial arts and you watch what was going on there tonight against a tough guy like Horiguchi who can knock you out at any time and has great wrestling, what Demetrious Johnson was able to do in that fight and literally break him down the whole fight, then goes for the armbar at the end. The guy's incredibly. His cardio is unbelievable. His speed, like Rogan always says, he's the fastest guy in the sport, and he is technically perfect. He does everything the exact way he's supposed to. He comes in with a game plan and follows it to the letter. He's just one of these guys. Just got to put his head down, keep doing his thing, and you have to respect him. Anderson Silva wasn't the biggest star ever while he was champion. Chuck Liddell wasn't a big star for a while, and his day will come.
June 13th, 2015, UFC 188, Velasquez vs. Verdum, Mexico City, Mexico. Cejudo's third appearance in the UFC is against Chico Camus.
Oh, this experience is crazy. It's like nothing else. I mean, I feel like I'm at the Olympic Games. I just won the gold medal with all these cameras and all these people. It's something incredible, something you can't describe. I couldn't even fathom or think about this. This open workout's amazing.
For the third straight time, Cejudo wins by unanimous decision. Cejudo would follow this with another decision victory over top 10 ranked Jussier Formiga in Monterrey, Mexico, just a few months later. September 5th, 2015, UFC 191, Johnson vs. Dodson 2, Las Vegas, Nevada. Once again, Mighty Mouse is booked as the main event for a UFC pay-per-view, this time in a rematch against John Dodson, who Johnson defeated in January of 2013.
I noticed at the face-offs today, after the media day, it was pretty intense. You got up there first, you were aggressive, you made a beeline, and typically he does his famous pose. He didn't do that this time. He did it after the fact when you guys were looking at the crowd, but not face to face. There was some intensity there.
Yeah.
Did you feel it?
Yeah, absolutely. My heart didn't skip a beat. Stayed at probably 56 beats per minute. But this is a business, and this is a fight that I've been looking forward to. A lot of people think I've been trying to shy away from this fight, I guess you can say, but it's always been in the back of my head that we're going to fight again, just because he's been knocking off guys. The guys he's knocked off, he hasn't fought Joseph Benavidez, I guess you can say. So with that being said, I knew we were going to fight. And now that the fight's here, I'm super pumped for it, excited. We had a great training camp for it. And now I'm ready to go out there and just count down the days to get in there.
Johnson cruises to another unanimous decision victory.
So what do you think of your performance?
I thought it was good. The biggest thing was that I can tell each time we stared off, I could feel a lot of emotions coming from him. It's rightfully so. It's his second chance to, get it crack at me. And for me, I just looked at another fight. I didn't let none of the emotions, all the stuff he said about me get to me. And, Just went out there and fought.
You're finally done with this guy.
Yep. Well, give him 2 more years, he might be back up. If he was smart, he would go up to bantamweight. He said, he's talking a lot of shit, saying, hey, I'm better than Cejudo. Okay, well, people talk a lot of shit in this game. If I'm gonna talk stuff about, I can beat somebody, then I'm gonna go up and try to do it. He's that guy who was doing that. So, he said he wants to be 3 Division I champion. He had his chance at one flyweight. Take his ass to 135. Try TJ Dillashaw. You lose it there, go to Conor McGregor. People like you talking this game. If you're gonna talk, back it up.
April 23rd, 2016, UFC 197, Jones vs. St. Preux, Las Vegas, Nevada. Johnson is set to face the undefeated Henry Cejudo as the co-main event at the MGM Grand Garden Arena.
All right, so you're facing Henry Cejudo, and I feel like this is a fresh matchup. It's a different kind of opponent. It's not one that you've been in talks with for a long. It hasn't been a long drawn-out thing. It's something new. Does he present that to you as well, like just a fresh challenge?
Yeah, I think all my even my rematches were a fresh challenge because they're always going to bring something different to the table. The only difference when I've had the rematches is that finding my distance and finding their rhythm it doesn't take as long. I guess you can say that. But other than that, yeah, I'm excited for the matchup. I mean, the guy's undefeated, so we'll see what happens.
Do you think he fears you as a fighter?
I would hope so. I would hope, maybe fear, maybe respect is probably a better word. I believe he respects the fact that I've reached a high level. I'm undefeated. Like I said, I want the best Demetrious Johnson that the world has ever seen because I don't want excuses. I really don't, and I don't mean to sound arrogant or whatnot, but I want the best of the best. I'm in my prime. I'm 29 years old. So is he. Let's give the fans a show. But if I'm healthy and I do everything right, Ariel, man, you cannot measure heart. You cannot measure hunger, and that's something that I have.
In a spectacular performance, Mighty Mouse finishes Cejudo with knees and punches less than 3 minutes into the first round. Cejudo suffers the first loss of his career.
How good does this one feel? Because everyone said he's the Olympic wrestler. He's the guy who's going to figure you out, put you on your back, things like that. And then you stop him in a matter of minutes. That has to feel satisfying, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when he comes from that background. And, I got random text messages from random people I haven't talked to in a long time. And goes, can you please put this man away? I'm so sick and tired here about the gold medal. But, it's a great accomplishment that he's been able to do in his career. And it feels good to be able to put him away. I think a lot of people coming into this fight, everybody was so emphasizing on his gold medal, that he's a gold medal and all that stuff. And then me and my coach was doing research. I was like, dude, there's like 5,000 plus gold medalist athletes on our road. He goes, you know how many world champions there are at flyweight? 1, my friend. And I was like, that's right. So, but yeah, it's just, I'm not the type of guy to take jabs, but like when I do take jabs, it's all about facts. I don't come out of here and start talking, crap about somebody when it's not true or anything. But, like I said, I was only 1 flyweight champion.
Cejudo would go on to lose his following fight in a closely contested split decision against top 5 flyweight Joseph Benavidez. December 3rd, 2016, The Ultimate Fighter finale, Las Vegas, Nevada. With a shortage of new contenders, the UFC resorts to Johnson's next opponent being the winner of their reality show, The Ultimate Fighter. Former UFC flyweight Tim Elliott wins the show and faces Johnson for the flyweight title. Johnson wins by unanimous decision. April 15th, 2017, UFC on Fox 24, Johnson vs. Hayes, Kansas City, Missouri. The reigning champ, Demetrious Johnson, is set to face former Elite C champion, Wilson Hayes.
When I first became a champion, it was like, we're going for number 10. Well, I don't know what it was at that time, but it was like, we're going for 10, It was just, get through this championship fight. And now as I get older, it's about getting through the training camps because as you get older, I don't take any supplements, no HGH, no testosterone, no steroids bullshit. Your body does not recover like it used to. And I have always heard older fighters when I was 23, 24, they're like, oh man, my body's coming. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But as I get older, I realize it's true. It doesn't really bounce back like it usually does. So for me, it's 1 fight at a time, 1 camp at a time, and 1 defense at a time. So if I'm not successful this Saturday, same thing. I'm like, all right, let's see if we can break it. Now we tied it. Let's see if we can break it. And then after that, I'm like, shit, let's see if we can do 12 and 13, 14. And I'm like, hey, I want to pay you to go 35. Okay, let's go into negotiations. And then if I don't like negotiations, I'll go back down 25. So, at the end of the day, I'm just focused on 1 fight at a time.
You want to get to 11 before you start considering the possibility? Because you always said you wanted to get the record. So do you want to get to 11 before you start talking about 35?
Yeah, 10's just a stepping stone. It's the ultimate goal is 11. I mean,
right.
It's like Floyd Mayweather when he got 49-0. It's like, why would you stop there? Like, you can easily go to 50-0 to be the only fighter to ever do it. No, I'm going past. My goal is to go past 10. So, but let's say I go out there Saturday and I'm not successful. I've far exceeded my expectations to when I got into the sport. You got to think. You hear these fighters all the time. I was destined to do this. It's my destiny. How the fuck do you know what your destiny is? You're only 25 years old. You don't even have kids. So for me, for me to sit there it was my destiny to be the champion to do this. No, it wasn't. I don't even know what my destiny is. I was put on this earth to be a good man and to raise beautiful children, to have a beautiful wife, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe I was destined to have an ugly ass wife. I don't know. So when people talk about this destiny stuff, I'm just like, okay, that's their fill. So for me, when I got in this sport, I was just a fan of martial arts and working a full-time job and training and doing amateur fights just on the weekend, just because it reminded me of being in high school and wrestling again, and then to be able to become a world champion. Like I said, man, I was the guy who was carrying, construction tubes, trying to go home after training to see Joseph Benavidez fight in Uriah Faber fight, and here I am. I've got the belt, so like I said, I far exceeded my expectations. I'm very happy with my career, and I'm looking forward to keep on building more things to be exceed my expectation. So
Demetrious Johnson dominates and retains his belt with a third-round armbar on the BJJ black belt.
Now that you've accomplished the 10 straight successful defenses, can you put it into perspective what that means now that you've done something that only Anderson Silva has done? You have a chance to break that record now.
Yeah, it's definitely awesome. I think any champion in the UFC or any sport, the Chicago Bulls, when Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman were together, they wanted to try to get as many championships as they could. For me, I got 10. I could take this belt home, and hopefully next time I fight, I can break it. But then I might go for 13 or 14. Why not set the bar high? Usain Bolt, he's the fastest man on land. I'm the fastest man in mixed martial arts. So I'm going to keep on proving that, and hope I can set it to 15. Then I'll retire. Then I'm like, okay, Matt, I'm done. Brad, it's awesome. Let's just train together and keep on getting better and not put my body through, the turmoil of cutting weight and the aches and bruises.
Is that belt yours? Are you going to be taking
I'm taking this motherfucker home.
So now you have 2 belts, right?
I got 2 belts.
Okay, what's the story in the 8 other belts that are owed to you?
You know what? Hopefully they send it to me, But I got my 2 belts, one for Tyron and one for Maverick, so they don't have to fight over one. And then, I'll sit down with Dana White and talk to him. Like I said, I just want to capture that photo that Floyd Mayweather has done. Andre Ward just did it, the champion, all my belts. I'll even bring my amateur belts just to show the process I went through to get all these belts. 10 title defenses, sometimes when I take a step back and smell the roses, I'm like, damn, I've been a champion since 2012, September, when I won it in Toronto, Canada. And I'm still here today.
Congrats.
Thanks, man.
September 9th, 2017, UFC 215, Nunes vs. Shevchenko, Edmonton, Alberta. Cejudo is matched up against top 10 flyweight and fellow former title challenger, Wilson Hayes. Cejudo snaps his 2-fight losing streak and defeats Hayes by TKO early into round 2.
First win in almost 2 years, first finish in over 4 years. Considering all of that, would you say this is the best performance of your MMA career? Yeah.
I think so. I'm evolving area. Even when I fought Demetrious, I was only in MMA for exactly 3 years. And I'm still growing as a fighter. I never did amateurs as a mixed martial artist. I went straight pro. And I was kind of in the fast lane a little bit. But I'm slowly improving. And like people say, and Joseph would always say, Henry's an athlete. And he's right. I'm an athlete. I can do a lot of things that maybe your typical wrestler can't.
October 7th, 2017, UFC 216, Ferguson vs. Lee, Las Vegas, Nevada. Demetrious Johnson returns to the cage to face Albuquerque fighter Ray Borg as the co-main event at the T-Mobile Arena.
The word is that your deal was restructured a little bit. Could you tell us any more on that?
It just got restructured. I just want to be on the same playing field as all the other champions. All the other champions. And it's all public record. I mean, Dana White. Those guys, they don't say it, but they kind of say it. But every single champion out there gets 500 flat to win and plus pay-per-view points. Where I'm not to that level yet. So that's my goal. That's what I believe first round management can get me to. It's not like this is my first or second or fourth title defense. I just didn't win the belt. You got guys who win the belt and they get 500 flat straight up, and then they get pay-per-view points. Where it's like, dude, 10 title defenses and going on my 11th one, I believe. Hopefully I'm successful. Yeah. And I just like to be, just like those other guys, 500 flat. I mean, I think that should be, just plain Jane, like make it, an incentive to become a champion, to where it's like, boom, you became champion, boom, 500 flat plus pay-per-view points. That's how it is. No, across the board, that's just how if I was running the company, that's how I'll make it. And then if you lose the belt, then, the next person who gets it gets 500 flat. I mean, but that's why I don't run the UFC and I don't have my own fight promotion, because I'll probably be broke. Like, you can't do it, dude. You make no money whatsoever.
But that's not the case for this fight. You're not getting the 500 flat and the pay-per-view points?
No, all this stuff would be disclosed, but I'll get pay-per-view points.
Okay.
In what MMA Fighting would call submission of the year for 2017, Mighty Mouse wins by armbar in the 5th round.
It's funny, I never, you see a lot of people out there, they're doing their training videos, their vlogs and stuff. I don't show any of my training. I just don't do it. It's none of your guys' business what I'm doing in the gym. But we do have the embedded crew coming out there, and I'll let them film my warm-up, and they're like, dude, you need to let us, film your sparring, because the stuff that you're doing in sparring, you're actually doing in an octagon. And Rick Lee, he'll tell you already in Edmonton, I threw, I was practicing throwing people up. I do it all the time in the gym. When I was in the octagon fighting Ray Borg, he's very tough dude. His game is scrambling. That's what he likes to do. And when he was like, oh, I'm out, scramble DJ him and get on top of him. And even when he took me down, I was like, okay, you took me down. Are you gonna pass guard? No. And I elevated him, then I got back up, and I was like, okay, you took me down. That was the best opportunity you had. And then when I had his back, he was very planted. His weight was planted. And Matt, a couple weeks ago, he was saying when somebody's planted, you have to shift their weight. And when they shift their weight, they're light. So when I had him, I was kneeing him. I was going to try to kick him in the face, but I knew he was looking for that to try to take me down. So I kneed him, and then I shook his weight. I shifted his weight, and then when he shifted, he went back through an elbow, and I was like, got you. And that's when I threw him up, and then landed an armbar. Yeah. Fuck yeah.
And then the finish. I mean, my God, man. That might be the most insane finish I have ever witnessed cage side.
Replay it for those that missed it. What happened?
A suplex to an armbar. I've never even imagined something like that. That's a pro wrestling move. That's a move that should not work in real life. Media Row kind of just became children all over again, where we all just didn't even understand what happened. And actually, it happened very close to Media Row, and it was interesting to watch develop, because you could see Demetrious was thinking about something, and then he looks at DC, and then he just does kind of like this Zangief grunt from Street Fighter, just like this, and like this crazy sound, and then all of a sudden it's over, and no one knew what happened. It was amazing to watch, and what a way to break the record, right? Like that's a replay that will be on every UFC highlight package until eternity. That's going to be just a seminal moment for the sport, and the fact that that's kind of the record-breaking one is just unbelievable.
December 2nd, 2017, UFC 218, Holloway vs. Aldo 2, Detroit, Michigan. Henry Cejudo is set to face rising prospect Sergio Pettis on the main card.
Does this kind of feel like deja vu? I mean, in May you were doing the same thing, sitting across from the guy, you're about to face off. Of course, the fight didn't come to fruition because of the hand, but does it feel like it's old hat now with him?
Yeah, I think so. And I think he knows that. Cause I could have pulled out because of the fire, but you know what? I told him, and I thought about it. I said, you know what? I owe you one. And I told him that personally.
You reached out to him?
Yeah, I reached out to him. I said, you know what? I owe you one, bro. And I saw him in Vegas. I said, you know what? I owe you one. I says, I'll do whatever I can, man, to make this fight happen. And sincerely, man, my hand was hurt, man. I couldn't. It was hard for me to open the doorknobs and things like that. Open my toothpaste bottle. Wow. And I still try to fight, but it's just, you know, I respected dude. And I knew I had to be 100. Now I'm 100, and I'm excited for this fight.
Cejudo uses his superior wrestling to hammer out a unanimous decision.
I fought DJ 3 years when I just started fighting. I think I'd made my MMA debut in April of 2013. Like my first fight. Never did amateur, went straight pro. DJ beat me in a gray area. He beat me in an area where we had a game plan, rough up on the clinch, and I was humbled, man. And thus far, I've gone out to different parts of the world, gone out to Evolve, gone out to Thailand, gone out to Brazil, and I'm planning on possibly going out to Europe with Coach Cariaso at CSA. Man, I've cross-trained, to become the best in the world, and literally, man, like it's like kind of like a Pokemon character where you go out and you just, compete and find what fits best for you. So I think I made, leaps and bounds, man. Like I'm an athlete, man. I'm a fighter. And people ask me, how are you gonna beat Demetrious Johnson? And I'll say, it's just at that time my answer was, man, just time, just give me time, and you guys will see my improvements.
August 4th, 2018, UFC 227, Dillashaw vs. Garbrandt 2, Los Angeles, California. Demetrious Johnson is set to defend his flyweight championship against Henry Cejudo for the second time. This will be DJ's third championship rematch of his UFC title run.